Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Poker Showdown, brought to you by Party Poker. I am your host, Jaime Staples. This week, we have Vince Van Patten on the show. What a legend, man. I mean, he's an actor, he was a tennis star, but how most people in the poker world and how I knew him for sure was as a commentator for the WPT. I mean, a legendary voice, him and Mike Sexton together. It's just the stuff, man. It's the stuff you want. I'm telling you. I had the opportunity to interview him, and I mean, he's just a star. I love the guy. It was a great 30-minute conversation. I think you're going to enjoy it as well. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the online poker news from this week. So we need to kick off the online news, of course, with the WPT World Online Championship, which is coming up on Party Poker, starting just next week, starting right away. Mid-July here. Going to be an incredible series. 12 main events in the schedule with tier buy-ins. $3,300 is the main events. $320 is the micro, I think, or the small, and then $33 is the smallest level. So 3 tiers. I love it. 33, 320, and 3,300. I've talked about this before, but I think it's so important in a series like this to be inclusive. I know when I first started playing tournaments, I would get so frustrated because I couldn't play because I can't afford $3,300. I mean, those are for the big guys or the satellites to hopefully get in there for cheap. So having some $33 events, some $320 events, I think allows everyone to get involved. The schedule is so great because it has one event a week. It has PLO 8 or better the first week, and it starts as day 1A, day 1B, day 2, and the final table. And the next week is Pot Limit Omaha, day 1A, day 1B, day 2, final table. Slow, structured, great events. And then we get into the 8 max first event for $3,300, etc. The main event, 1,000 buy-in with a $5 million guarantee. The main event with a 10,000 buy-in, $10 million guarantee. So overall, this series is just going to be incredible. I'm so excited about it. I'm going to be streaming a bunch of this stuff. Something else with the WPT this summer is the Shooting Star Charity Tournament. This is a great thing that's going on, and I'm actually a shooting star. So if you're a fan of the podcast and you like my stuff, make sure you play this one. It's an $1,100 buy-in, and all $100 is going to charity. Now, there's going to be some shooting stars, some celebrities, let's say. It's weird to include myself in that group, but we just will. If you knock out one of the shooting stars, you're going to earn a $500 bounty. It's got a $500,000 guarantee no matter what, and the $100 from everybody's buy-in is going to be donated to One Day Sooner, a charity that advocates on behalf of human trial challenges to speed up development of the COVID-19 vaccine. I think something that pretty much everyone in the world is in support of. So very excited for this. Can't wait to play the Shooting Star event. That is the 29th, July 29th, Thursday, July 30th. Wednesday, July 29th, and Thursday, July 30th. There it is. So make sure to hop in that one. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Now let's go over to some of the rest of the industry here as I try and be fair and impartial and give you guys all the news, not just my party poker news on the team. So let's talk about the WSOP 2020, which has begun. The first 6 events have paid more than $4 million in prize money. This is the one that's happening in Nevada. And later on, of course, the second half will be held on GG Poker on the international side. The first event was a $500 buy-in no limit hold'em event, which drew 1,700 runners. Phil Hellmuth with a final 11 in that tournament. I mean, a lot of people give Phil Hellmuth stick, man. And it bugs me because the guy, for decades, literal decades, we talk about him in this conversation with Vince Van Patten, first year of the WPT. For decades, the guy's been getting it done. And yes, he may do something different than a lot of the online wizards. But listen, man, we need to learn from Phil Hellmuth. Enough putting Phil Hellmuth down. I've had enough of it. I want to learn from Phil Hellmuth. This is a call. Phil, please, help me, okay? I will be your mentor. I don't need too much of your time. Just help me get better, Phil, okay? I want to be like you, man. Shout out to Phil Hellmuth on that. Jonathan Art Vanderlei Dockler won the first event for $130,000. The biggest single event prize pool so far, just over $873K for a 1,000 buy-in no limit 8 max. The event was won by Lewis Lynch for $168,000. The WCP Online, hosted by GG outside U.S. markets, is going to begin on July 1st, is running until September 6th. And over on PokerStars, there's the Stadium Series going on this summer, bringing $50 million in guarantees. It's running from July 5th to August 2nd. 102 tournaments are going to be played with buy-ins ranging from $5 to $5,200 buy-ins. The low, medium, and high buy-ins will run every day from Monday to Saturday. and the 5,200 high grand final has a $5 million minimum guarantee. Let's go to the Roll of Honor now. Highlight some of the amazing scores from this past week. Stephen Chidwick won 2 High Roller Club events, the $750K guaranteed big game for more than $191K, and the $300K guaranteed mix max second chance for $176,000. Alex Foxon as well won 2 High Roller Club events, the $400,000 main event for more than $163K, and the 6 max warm up for $20,000. Spartak won the 888 Poker Freeze-Out Series main event for $46,800, so shout out to him. And I gotta shout out a man that works a lot with Party Poker, works alongside and gives some advice. Rob Young, second place in one of the high roller clubs, man. Rob Young getting it done out there. You know, you may think, oh, he's a well-off, successful guy. He runs a card room. He can't be that good. I mean, second place in a high roller club. He keeps tagging Patrick Leonard and say, are you sure I'm minus 30% ROI in this thing? I'm not so sure anymore, Rob. I mean, listen, man, you might have something here. I'm just saying. Congratulations on the runner-up finish in that one, Rob. That's good stuff. That's it for the online poker news. So let's get into the interview with Vince Van Patten. Joining me on the podcast today, I have a tennis legend. I have an actor. And then I have, to me, I mean, this is the most important thing to me, Vince, is an iconic voice in poker. A guy that I spent my younger years in poker when I was 19, 20, just getting into the game in Canada, listening and inspired me to take up the game. So I have to say, it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for taking the time.
It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
This is great.
So I'm glad that you watched the World Poker Tour in the early years, and we sucked you right into the game. I love it.
How many people picked up poker because of that show? It's got to be quite a bit. I want to kick off by asking you about your start in poker. I understand that your dad actually used to run some poker games. So give me some insight. Like, how did you find the game, and what was your experience as a kid with your dad running games?
Yeah, my father was an actor, Dick Van Patten. He was the 8 Is Enough father, among other things. But his whole life was to act so that he could gamble, so he could have money to gamble, to go to the racetrack, to play poker at night. He just lived for the action. He loved acting. He was good at it. He made good money. But all he was thinking about was the racetrack the next day or the poker game he was going to have that night. And as I was growing up, I would watch him, and he would have poker games in our apartment in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles 3 times a week. And this is before poker was very popular, and only certain people would come to the house. Actors, Don Adams from Get Smart, Gabe Kaplan, all these strange people. And they'd play these games in all different variations of poker. And as a kid, I'm 11 years old, 12, I'm watching him. And I love gambling just as much. I idolized my father, and he taught me how to read the racing form at age 7.
Right.
He knew I loved poker. He said, I'll teach you to be a good poker player. He taught me the game, and I was playing with friends at 11 years old, 12 years old. Finally, I used to have played 3-card Monte at school. And, I was taking action as a bookie. Just loved the whole world of gambling. It was very special to me. Anyway, at age 15, I'm watching the game, and they used to play till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in the kitchen. And pizza boxes were being thrown, and they were yelling at each other. And I loved it. And I would watch from the hallway. And finally said, hey, all right, Vinny, you made some money, as a kid actor. He goes, if you want to play in these poker games, you're welcome. I said, really? He said, yeah. So I started playing in his game. And it was a game. This is in the 70s. That you could win. It was a big game. These guys were big actors. They were making good money. And I was making pretty good money. So we could win or lose in then $500 to $2,000, right?
Wow.
So it was a big game in it, and I was good. I learned how to play, and we played every variation of game. Anyway, long story short, that's how I got hooked to poker. Loved it ever since. And then from there, I went on the tennis circuit for 10 years on the ATP circuit. And when I came back from the circuit, in my 30s, I picked up the game again and started having some big games in Los Angeles. But that's a whole different story.
I want to ask you about the tennis, but before we go there, I'm just curious, what was it like going to school and just hanging out with your friends when you're playing poker games till 2, 3 in the morning, you're winning thousands of dollars as a young guy? Like was that a weird mind trip? Because for me at 20, when I first got introduced to poker, I'm like, this is crazy. This is a whole different world that I'm a part of, and I don't know if the normal world's ever going to be the same. So what was that for you as a young person?
Well, that's true. I was on sets because I was an actor. So I was on the TV set. I would get tutored there. And then when I go back to school, I didn't know many kids in school. And so I'd be playing my games. They didn't know I was playing big poker games at night. So, I wouldn't really tell them. I didn't know too many kids back in school. I literally, when I was 16, I would want to run down to Gardena, California, where they had poker houses. And you play 5-card stud, 5-card draw. And I had a fake beard and mustache made for me because you had to be 21. And I drive down there in my car at 16 and playing these games all night too. So, and once I went to Las Vegas when I was 16 with my buddy who was 16, but he looked 13 and I looked about 14. And we drove to Vegas in the middle of the night with $17 worth of coins to beat Vegas. My parents didn't know where I was. And I put on the top of the mustache. He put on the goatee. We went into the MGM Grand with our $17. 2 o'clock in the morning, we go broke. 3 o'clock, we're done with the slot machines. We lost all the money. And I go to the car and we have no gas to get back. So I go, what are we going to do? So we looked around and the fountain at the MGM Grand back in the day, there was a fountain and people used to throw quarters in there. And so I literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, I rolled up my pants, went in there and got about $5 worth of change to get back to LA with. That's a true story. Didn't get caught for that. But that was one of the many adventures I had as a kid and as a gambler.
That's an amazing story. I want to get into tennis a little bit. You won a singles title, and I think you were ranked 24th in the world at one point, right? So got very high in tennis. What is it with poker and tennis? Because there's yourself, and I think of Patrick Antonius, and I know Vanessa Selt and Fatima de Mello. They play a bunch. Like, what's the connection here between this tennis and poker world?
I think it's just athletes, generally speaking. I mean, there's some NFL players that play on the poker tour, some tennis players. If you're a good athlete, if you're a top-notch athlete, you usually have that competitive spirit, and you have to figure out how to win. And as a poker player, it's exactly the same thing. And you also, as a winning poker player, you have to have the guts. Everyone knows what to do, but it takes guts to pull the trigger at the right time for that big move. So I think there's a parallel there. And if you played a lot of competitive sports and you're good at it, you'll probably make a good transition into poker.
Similar to what you just said, but if you have anything specifically, playing tennis at the highest levels, what things do you think poker professionals and the best poker players are maybe missing out on from the tennis pros, right? Like, what could they learn from the best in tennis and apply to poker and maybe get an edge?
Well, I think to get to the very top in tennis, I was completely dedicated. I was absolutely involved. It was my whole life. I have to win. I hate to lose so much. I got to win to show the world. So it was such a burning desire. And I put myself on that court and I worked so hard. I worked harder than anyone out there. And I grinded away and I made this dream come true. And I think in the poker world it's the same. You've got to have that burning desire, but you also have to have great discipline. I don't know whether all the poker players, even the talented ones, have the discipline, because there's more distractions in poker and the gambling world with the side leaks and everything. You can get into a lot of trouble when you blow up your money. So there's a little change there. If they could learn anything, the top athletes in tennis, the toughest sport in the world, I believe, really have to have that discipline to stay up there.
That makes sense. Is there any actors or tennis players that you think would make great poker players but have never played before? Like, who would be your all-star list of people you've worked with?
Oh, as an actor, I worked with, and I used to play with Robert Duvall back in the day. When we played some, and he was very good. He was a good player. Great actor, obviously. But, listen, I played with James Woods. He played in my game in Beverly Hills for a long time. He's a great player. I mean, he has it all. I mean, he knows what he's doing. Ben Affleck is a wonderful player. I mean, these guys are actors. Usually a good actor will make his way and become a good poker player if they want to.
That makes sense. I mean, they've got the face for it, right? I mean, they've got the most important part.
And the cunning and the street smarts and the competitive spirit. I mean, you gotta have that competitive spirit to make it in the acting world and also in the poker world. You have to be so competitive, don't you think?
I think so. Absolutely. I want to ask you about a film you co-wrote, 7 Days to Vegas. A film based on a true story about a man walking 280 miles from LA to Las Vegas in 7 days as part of a bet. So tell me the story of this. Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, made the movie. It was based on, because my poker game in Beverly Hills. We started out in the San Fernando Valley as a game you could win or lose 1,000 or two. It got bigger and bigger. We moved it to Beverly Hills. The game got very, very big. And it was always a great, wonderful cash game, good, interesting people. But the interesting thing about it was the side bets we made. We made a lot of crazy side bets along the way. And one of the bets I made over the years was that I can make a walk to Las Vegas in 7 days, 280 miles. Can I do it? And this was a long time ago. And I decided to write 7 Days to Vegas with my writing partner, Steve Alper. And we wrote, now a lot of it's fiction. There's a lot of fiction in there, but there's a lot of truth. So it's based on my game, based on these bets, but it's fictional as well. But it turned out really good. 7 Days to Vegas. It's out there. You get it on Amazon and streaming everywhere. And thanks for asking. People are enjoying it. It's good comedy. It's like The Sting meets The Hangover. A lot of twists and turns.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's unbelievable to me. 280 miles in the desert. I mean, you just got to watch the film, I guess. I'm not going to get too specific here. I don't want to spoil it, but
you'll get a kick out of it. I wouldn't make that bet today. I mean, I'd probably need 2 months to make it. That's always interesting prop bet for any gambler, though. How many weeks would it take you to walk from LA to Las Vegas? No RV at night. You got to stay outside. You know, it's always an interesting question.
There's a line. There's a number. There's an amount of days for sure. What about the prop bet world? Like, do you have any other prop bet stories from this game? You know, you get to know some guys, and the game gets silly. You play all the time, and these bets come up. So do you have any tales of crazy, interesting prop bets beside that one?
I used to do a basketball bet, and I'm not a very good basketball player, just average at best. But from half court, I would take the ball and throw it. How many throws can I get for $500, $1,000? And Mike Sexton said, Lance, I'm going to give you 15 throws. No way you're going to make that throw. I'm going to give you 15 throws. Okay, Mike, we bet 500. Boom! I would hit it. I was good. So the number got cut down. You know, Mike would finally say, well, Lance, now you're too good. You're going to be about 7. You got to do it in 7. Okay, Mike, boom! I would hit it. So finally, it went down to about 5. I was down to 5 throws, 1 and 5, and I started losing that. So that was one of my famous prop bets. Can I make the half-court throw in 5? And the number was 4 or 5. I wasn't going to do it. Today, I'd make it maybe 7 or 8, but that was one of the bets. And I remember playing, and I bet everybody before the poker game, big game I was going to play it. And we went out to the tennis court where there was a basketball court, and I bet everybody. I was very cocky, and the number was 5. And I bet 1,000 here and 3,000 there and 4,000. I thought I was going to win. I lost that stinking bet, and I was stuck 25,000 before I even got to play poker half an hour later. I was sick. So I blew it all back. The moral of the story is you got to know your number, right?
That cockiness you talk about, you know, when you have the confidence and maybe even the arrogance going into a game, do you think that benefited you when you played poker in those games? Or did it hold you back?
Listen, I had my ups and downs in poker. A lot of great players out there, and and I had, I also had the horse racing leaks and the other gambling leaks. So, but with poker, cash games, I like it when you have a regular group of 30, 40 guys revolving, because you get to know how they play.
Yeah.
And if you're hungry enough and you play smart, and if you're a good money manager, you can do well. And so that's the kind of game I like to be in. A game that is going to be consistent too. You don't have any people they hit and run at 10:30 at night. You quit at 1 o'clock. Your guys are all solid. If that's the way you can do it, which was my game, you can have a consistent and a great game for many, many years to come. It's when you start not knowing some of the players in and out, and they stiff the game maybe, or you have to play till 3 in the morning, 7 in the morning. You play all night. When the rules start getting broken, that's when a game will deteriorate.
Yep, that makes sense. So you've been with the WPT since the very beginning of the broadcast of the company. Have you ever, or did you think that your time with the WPT would last this long? When you started.
Yeah, 19 seasons. We're going into the 19th year. It's amazing. Look, poker wasn't big when we first started 19 years ago. It was just what it was, right? And so Mike Sexton helps get the World Poker Tour put together. They're looking for the second guy. I get the part because I did the World Series a couple of years before where Scotty Wynn won it. And my father had done those commentating before that. So they picked me. Who else was out there? So they get me. I get in there to get this gig with Mike, who I know Mike from poker and everything. Great guy. And we're talking, and he goes, Vance, how long do you think this is going to go, Vance? I go, Mike, who knows? I go, I got to go to Palm Springs. I go, we'll be lucky to do 2 shows, 3 shows. He goes, that's right. That's my bet, too. Well, little did we know. That thing aired. The next thing you know, people are walking in the casinos going, oh, those are the guys from the World Poker Tour. We love that show. You know, it was like an instant hit, and it changed everything. And it's a wonderful thing because Steve Lipscomb was so smart to realize if you showed the cards, people would be fascinated by it. And that was a big part of it. And it just blew open. And then, of course, Chris Moneymaker, around the same time, had that great World Series. And then the World Series got involved with showing the cards, and it's all everything just came together. It turned out to be great. And it hasn't stopped. I mean, we had the peak, maybe we had a little dip, but it's back up there. It's the only game in the world that you can actually beat, the only gambling game. And that's why it's so popular. That's why everybody's attracted to it. So I think it's going to be here to stay for sure.
2002 and 2003, like you said, poker really wasn't on the map in entertainment. Like this put it there, really. And so, what do you think? Why has it stuck around so long? Like, why are people still interested in this game that debuted, 18, 19 years ago? What is it about poker that people love?
Well, you're looking at when you watch the final table, and you're looking at a guy pushing all in. He has 10-6 offsuit. You go, holy mackerel, what? That's genius. I never would do that. And so you're fascinated by the element of the bluff and how you can take hands that aren't yours. What other gambling game do you have that in? You just don't. It's the greatest game in the world. So people are still attracted to that. And now that everybody's getting better and better, people love to talk about it. People like to tell about their bad beats or discuss strategies. Would you do this? Would you do that? What's the percentages? So it's a fascinating study of a game that's going to keep evolving and get better and better. And by the way, just because you have an edge, maybe certain players in the world have a little edge, doesn't mean they're going to necessarily win. They can go into bad streaks. There's ups and downs. Anybody can win. So it's going to be the money managers and the players that are playing against softer fields that are going to have the advantage.
Right.
In my opinion.
That makes sense. I mean, longevity in poker, that's not something we see poker players being long in the game and being at the top of the game. It's just not very common, is it?
And you lose your confidence. Sometimes a great player, they start going stale for a while and they don't have as much money and they got to get fed in there with getting staked and everything. Before you know it, they go, oh, shoot, I lost. And now they're getting nervous. Now they're not playing their loose game anymore. So what's got them there? So a lot of things can happen with your confidence level too.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. So you've commentated on a ton of events. I don't know how many events. Do you know how many you've done?
I think we average, actual events a year, let's say we average 15. So 15 to 20, 200-300.
A couple. Yeah, that's a couple.
Probably 300 different events on the World Poker Tour, easily. Yeah.
Is there any moments or specific events that stand out, whether it's final tables or specific hands or action that stands out as like that's something I'll always remember?
Okay. Well, season 1, Phil Hellmuth. He was famous, right then and there. We all knew Phil. We knew the poker brat who he was. And he is just fun to watch. And he makes a final table. And he was at his pathetic glory at that time. I mean, he was cocky, I should win everything. He had no humility back then. And he got beaten up by, I forget the player, Hoyt Corkins, I believe. Just manhandled him. And he almost had a nervous breakdown. And I remember in one of the tournaments, he actually fell to the ground and went, oh no. And he falls to the ground and he rolls up into a little ball and starts rolling on the casino ground. Because how can that guy call me? He's the word. It was just classic Phil Hellmuth. So that I'll never forget. And then just, Mike Sexton winning was great. So classy, such a great friend. And for him to win, Doyle Brunson winning was fantastic. To see the godfather of poker winning that event. I always enjoy Will the Thrill Fiala, his championship. And I'm just impressed by Darren Elias, 4 WPT titles. And he's a humble guy. And there's no antics, there's no tricks, there's a lot of humility there. So I'm very impressed by him too. So they've been great seasons over the years.
That's an awesome list. That's a hit list right there. I'm going to have to go through and find all those episodes and rewatch them. Yeah. So the WPT World Online Championship coming up this summer. very different than a live venue, and something that absolutely makes sense given the time that we're at in the world. So how do you think it's going to be different to commentate an online event? Like, it's uncharted territory. So what do you think about the progression to online?
It's pretty good. I mean, listen, online works. It's different from live tournaments. There's nothing like a live tournament on the World Poker Tour, getting there and seeing the players and interviewing them and being right there. But online is special too, in a different way. It takes different tools also. I mean, you're not seeing that player. I'm an old school player that likes to see the player across the table, ask him questions like that. You can't do that online.
No.
So take Tony Dunce or cerebral computer guys that are just geniuses in that area. So it's going to bring out a different feel that's going to maybe excel. That'll be fun. And then we'll do the final tables and we'll just zoom it in, or we'll figure out how to do it. And it'll be great because these are big tournaments coming up. I mean, 100 million guaranteed for all the events. So it's exciting. Nice transition.
It doesn't, I don't think it gives as much of an edge to the actors that are able to play a character, are able to read a character. I mean, that's on the table, It's a tough world out there for actors online.
That's right. Actors, then they're going to do nothing at these tournaments probably. Who knows?
So do you feel like the WPT World Online Championship this summer is faithful to the brand? Like, honestly, when you heard about it, were you like, okay, that's a cool, nice adjustment? Or were you like, hold on a second, is this fair? So what are your thoughts about the mixing of online and live?
I think you got to do what you got to do. I mean, we are going through a ridiculous time in our lives and very tough time. So any distraction, anything that can get people through the day, God bless it. And I think that's good. So I don't think it changes the branding at all. I think it'll be interesting. And it'll be, it'll be well thought out and big money, and it'll keep people, glued to the computer playing poker.
Poker's changed a lot in the last 20 years. I wanted to ask about your own game. How often do you play nowadays? Like, how often do you play in these home games? I don't know if you still play them or even online. Like, how often do you play?
Yeah, I used to play 2 or 3 times a week, 80s, 90s, up to 2006 or 7. And then the games got very big and very stressful. But when I played my games and I had games, I would know there's going to be 2 games that week that I could play. So I know I got 100 shots at my cash game, and I got 60, 70 players getting revolved around. And I know I think I have an edge on these guys. And in my games too, were my rules. And so we did a lot of table talk. We asked a lot. We made a lot of deals, on one-on-one deals. I was good at making deals. Psychologically, if you're a good talker and you can bluff someone in the deal, that's a big advantage. So there's ways to win in certain cash games you cannot do nowadays. So that's changed in the cash games. But now if I play in a tournament or at a casino, now there's so many rules at a casino for the cash games that it hurts my game. I'm not as strong as I used to be, for sure. Plus the fact that I'm not playing all the time. So if I'm going to play once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that's not good enough because I can't take the variance. If I take a big hit, I'm going, oh, that's awful. I can't get it back in 2 days. So I'm laying low. I'm trying to make 7 Days to Vegas into a TV series. So we got some strong interest there.
Oh,
so I'm getting my creative juices out. So I'm doing creative. I'm backing away from the cash games and the tournaments, of course, but I will return. I vow to, in about 2 or 3 years down the line, I'm going to make a complete commitment to tournaments and cash games for about 2 years. I'm going after it. I really want to test myself again, but I'm a couple years away.
Please document this somehow. I need to see the Vince Van Patten journey in poker when you're back on the felt. I want to follow the bankroll. I want to see it all, man. Please figure out how to make it happen.
Right. Oh, by the way, I want to say one more thing because it's important. When you're playing a game that's a pretty high stakes and then you drop down, you don't play as well. And that's what I did. I kept dropping down. And all of a sudden I'm going, I can't get excited in the game that I'm playing. If I win a certain amount, I'm going, that's nothing compared to the old days. If you lose, it's irritating. So there's a reason why you have to be in the right game. And I want to be in that right game again, where all you're thinking about is, I've got to win tonight.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a tough move. The move down is not one people do successfully very often. How about COVID-19? Would you feel comfortable playing poker nowadays? What do you think about our progression back into poker rooms opening up, tournaments starting? Do you have any thoughts? It's a tough question, but what do you think?
I wouldn't go back in. I'm a little more paranoid than most. I think we've been dicked around by all sides in the government and this side and that side and the doctors, like everybody thinks. I don't know what to think anymore. We've been thrown around. So I'm one that keeps the mask on, and I'm doing a lot of washing, and I'm not doing too much social. I'm doing the social distancing. So I'm a little more paranoid about it. So I'm not going back into a poker room, six-handed game until I feel safe, and that could be for me, 2-3 months away down the line. I think. I know they're playing now, and it doesn't seem like there's any great breakout in those areas. So maybe it's all good. Maybe it's all good. We will see.
That makes sense. I share that sentiment. So you've had a ton of success in several different areas, 3 very different areas, to be honest. So I wanted to ask you, what has it allowed you to have success across genres? And would you have any advice for a guy like me or someone else watching that wants to live a purposeful, meaningful life? How do you span different areas like that?
First of all, I feel very blessed. I've been lucky and blessed and put in the right places at the right time. I feel that way. And when I go after something, I put everything into it, and I work very, very hard. So I think people have to work extremely hard. You got to love it. I know these are cliches, but you've got to love what you're doing and put every ounce of energy into it and get excited about it. So when I'm writing 7 Days to Vegas, all I'm thinking about is writing. And I was excited every minute of the day writing with my partner. 9 hours would go by, and I'd go, I wish there was more time. So that pushes me over. When I'm playing poker in bigger games, if I really want to win and I'm really focusing and I'm making notes every week of every player, I'm focusing and I'm working hard constantly. See, am I doing the right thing to be the best in this game? So I'm always concentrating on that. So that's it. I think I've been fortunate and lucky and hardworking, and been fortunate enough to be doing things that I love to do. So that's my little secret. It's worked out.
Makes sense. Thank you. And last, I'm going to go back to the poker world here. Do you have any thoughts or any advice for the poker world in general? We've seen it change so much. We've seen a lull. We've seen sort of a resurgence, especially of live poker. It's really exciting right now. But what do you think as a game we need to do to span the test of time, to be something that is still exciting in 50 years when we've got the 10th iteration of Fortnite, when Netflix is popping off and it's amazing? We're competing against these things for entertainment. So do you have any ideas what poker needs to do to move forward?
I don't know. I think it's just going to do fine on its own. I think it's a brilliant game. It's exciting. Greatest thing about it, anybody can do it. If you get your bankroll up there, you can't, in Wimbledon, big tournaments in tennis and golf, you can't get in there unless you qualify. Poker's wide open. Anybody can become a star, and that's a big thing. Anybody can win if they have the money and they put up the money. They can play a small event and move in. So that's a special thing. So I don't think it's going away. I think that's very strong. The only thing I could say is I know there's so many players and so many great players, and there's some egos out there, because you have to have a good ego in poker to believe and put your own money up. And I don't like to see the people going against each other. I think everybody should be kind to each other and really welcome players. Don't put other players down. Build everybody up, and we'll have a better community, and it'll just go better, and it'll be a nice thing.
I love it. Vince, thank you so much for taking the time today. I have to say, man, this has transported me back to my parents' house as a 19-year-old, sitting on the couch watching you guys commentate the WPT. I'm so comfortable. I haven't seen my parents in a year and a half, and I feel like I'm at home in the living room right now, just about to start my poker journey. What you and Mike have done with the WPT it's been amazing. I owe a ton of my career to you guys, so thanks so much for taking the time, man.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me on. And you're great. You're a great interviewer, and you're probably a great poker player. So I want to see you at some final tables. I'm sure you'll get there.
Yeah, we're working on both. We'll put it that way. Thanks so much, Vince.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Big thanks to Vince Van Patten for taking the time. What a guy, right? You could just tell listening to him, talking to him. He's so expressive. He's an actor. I wish I had a little bit of that, because he's got something to him, and it's just infectious. I love the guy. I think he's awesome. Thanks so much, Vince, for taking the time. Let's get to our weekly competition, where one of you is going to win a $109 Party Poker main event ticket. Okay? One of you. Or is it two? You know what? We're doing 2 again. Sorry, Party Poker. 2 $109 Party Poker main event tickets this week. Double charging them. I like you guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Now, last week, congratulations to Atrop65 and FamDog1 for correctly answering 3 1,000 seats are guaranteed per night in the WPT mini main event, the World Online Championships. Check out those satellites, I'm telling you. So they both win the tickets. This week, what is the name of the 25,000 guaranteed WPT World Online Championships leaderboard that was announced this week? Use the hashtag JSPokerHero. We're going to choose 2 of you from the bunch that correctly answer at random. And I think it's actually 50,000. I think they short sold you. I think it's a 50,000 leaderboard. Let me double check that. It is Player of the Championship leaderboard, 50,000 and 10,000 for the Shooting Stars. So there you go. That's going to be it for the show this week. Thank you all so much for taking the time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're listening on iTunes, make sure to drop a rating and a comment if you wouldn't mind. It helps us out in a big way. Spotify, you just do your Spotify thing and hang out. YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and I'll be checking those out. Thank you all so much for listening/watching. But until next week, we'll see you later.